when I was at Ajahn Chah's monastery in the forest, first began to practice there as a monk, we did a lot of bowing. We would bow 3 times, put your head on the floor. When you came in the big Dharma hall and the Buddha hall to the Buddha, bow 3 times when you left. Bow 3 times to the teacher when you sat near him, and bow 3 times when you left. Bow before you eat. And then at some point, I asked, what else is appropriate here? He said, well, strictly speaking, one should bow to one's elders as a monk. I said, fine, who are my elders? And he said, anyone who is ordained before you, which means everybody, right? And all of them. So every time I met an elder, which is someone who ordained even the day before I did, get down on my knees in the dirt and bow. And sometimes they were beautiful, worthy people in my eyes, and sometimes they were, to use Rodney's term last night, they were people who seemed like schmucks to me, right? It was some young village guy who ordained the month before me for a 2-month period to please his parents and didn't care less about the teachings of the Buddha, but was doing it in some ceremonial way. And I had to get down on my hands and knees in the dirt and put my head on the ground at his feet. So I was doing that and noticing some resistance at times. And then I began to be aware of the pain of that resistance, just how it was, and realized that bowing, that I was going to be bowing anyway, that there must be something there to bow to. And I'd look at different people, say, what is beautiful in them? Or what is worth bowing to in this person? Look for that in each person. And I got, instead of resisting it after a while, I got to love bowing. And I would bow when I went in my hut, and bow when I left, and bow before I entered the toilet, and bow after I left. Anything that moved, I would bow to it. You know? And that's really part of what the practice is about. There's a great Mahayana text called the Avatamsaka Sutra that describes all the possible kinds of universes, those made out of stone and those of fire, those of clouds and rock and rainbow light and flowers. And in each of these there arises a Buddha. And they have beautiful names, the Buddha of radiant joy, and the Buddha of all-embracing wisdom, and the Buddha of blissful freedom, and the Buddha banner of compassion. There's names for all these Buddhas. And in each of these universes, the Buddhas teach the same 4 noble truths. The truth of suffering, which is called in other places the truth of no satisfaction, or the truth of loss of life, or the truth of sorrow of taste, or the truth of dark repetition. Goes on and on. And in each of these worlds, the cause of suffering is described. The truth of waywardness, the truth of misperception, the truth of entanglement by ropes, the truth of taking the wrong path, the truth of enchantment, all the cause of suffering. And then all speak of the truth of freedom, called the 3rd noble truth, the truth of nirvana, the truth of timeless delight, the truth of open-ended clarity, the truth of thankful release. So we sit and walk, paying attention moment to moment, and our task is to see what is true, and to bow to that as it is.